Hello, I'm back. I'm sorry about earlier on. Yeah, so I'd just like to give a bit of a background to my life, just a brief background so that you understand me and you know me and trust me, hopefully, as we journey together. So, my name is Chisom Lombe. I am a chartered accountant by profession and a fashion designer by passion. So I have done a lot of things in this life, a lot of successful things. I have succeeded at fashion, I've succeeded in my career. I retired early uh, from my position of finance director to follow my passion in fashion, something that God called me to. That is also another beautiful story because I have believed in my life, based on what I've gone through, that your passion is the fuel to your destiny. And your destiny is really about having an impact and changing people's lives. So, this whole journey that we're going through together is really about changing people's lives. But it started with me following my passion in fashion, because in that journey, God put me on, gave me a platform actually, and exposed me to the world. I traveled the world, and I never understood why. It was just for me to just step on some um, in some in some places. I needed to step there. I needed to physically go there before God reintroduces me, um, like He's doing now. So I retired to follow my passion in fashion. I've traveled the world. I've showcased my designs on different um, platforms. World Fashion Week. I've done Paris Fashion Week. I've done uh, World Fashion Week. I've gone to done Zimbabwe Fashion Week. I've just Italy, Rome Fashion Week. So I've done all that, and I say all this to say that I have had a success, what someone would call a very successful life. Um, and in back in my country, because of that decision to follow my passion, I was given this platform to be able to, speak on behalf of entrepreneurs. And because of that, I have spoken on many platforms, but especially about someone following their passion and what God created them to do. That is what I really talk about when I'm called and invited on those platforms. In my fashion life, I have dressed many significant people in the world, first ladies, um, actors. I've dressed a lot of influential people. But then again, it's really the physical aspect of it um, that God allowed me to experience. And I'll give you a story, a little bit of a reference with David. David was allowed to be in the wilderness. He was in the field, and he was there alone, and he was tending. So he had this passion to tend to his sheep and all that. But while he was there, he had to protect his sheep, and he had to fight a bear, he had to fight a lion. And obviously to David it was like, oh, okay, I love this life. I guess this is all I'm created for. I am going to fight the lion. I've killed the lion, I've killed the bear. But then that's just a prototype of where he was going. So God will show you, will take you into a place. And I'm saying all this for you to try and put yourself in this position, to try and reflect as I'm talking to you. Try and reflect on where you are in life right now, because I need you to understand that sometimes where you are is just a training ground for where you're meant to be. Where you are should give you a glimpse of where you are going. You may never understand where you're going, because I never understood. David probably never imagined he would be king, you know. But at least just know that don't settle where you are. It might just be a prototype of where you're going. So in my case, it was fashion. So the way God illustrated it to me and confirmed it through another man of God is, this man of God came to me and told me, do you know that you do fashion, but It's not all about fashion. Your life is not all about fashion because you're really talented. You have influence. You're able to speak to speak people to people. People are able to listen to you. So if you look critically at what you do, you get a plain piece of cloth, you cut it, you make a design out of nothing. So your life is all about creating something out of nothing. So like setting a trend, you know. So then I thought, about what he said many years ago. And for me, I was like, okay, fine. So yeah, so for me, my vision was, I am just going to be, a globe, a, a, a big fashion designer who is, who influences the whole globe. That's what I wanted to do. That's what's fun. That's what I wanted to do. I'm still doing fashion, but for me, I thought that was an end. So you think this is an end, but God says, no, it's not an end. It's a means to an end. So you might be in a place where that you're just serving a means to your end. You may never know the end. So my advice to you is just you need to be obedient to your call. Answer your call and follow your call. Yeah. So I followed my passion in fashion. The best time of my life. I was traveling the world. I was succeeding. And because of the influence I had and the platforms I had, I founded an organization called My Zambia, My Responsibility. And in that organization, I was able to be hopefully be the to speak for the to be the voice to the voiceless. So there are a number of projects that we did in My Zambia, My Responsibility, that we helped people, we helped girls in the rural areas, raise funds and buy them sanitary pads, because the girls in the rural areas stopped going to school because they cannot afford sanitary pads, so they stay home, and especially the girls in examination classes. So that's one of the avenues God took me to, and then also other many avenues to help to be the voice to the voiceless. And for me, that was success. Okay, so I never knew that there would be an aspect of my life that God would bring up. I had no clue. I had no clue. And can you imagine that while I was succeeding in all these avenues, I was failing at relationships? My relationships were crumbling. And everybody's clapping for me and telling me, you have so much grace. You have so much favor from God. And I could see it. Sometimes I would be like, God, how do you favor me so much? There are a lot of people who've tried so hard, but I easily get to travel the world. I easily get to dine with kings and queens, to dress first ladies. And, how do I get so much favor? You know? And then God one day tells me, I need to write a book. In fact, before he even told me to write a book, he told me to stop everything that I was doing. This was January. He said, when you go into the new year, I need you to stop everything that you're doing. I need you to remove yourself from everything, from the organization, from the fashion, from the. I just need you to stay and hear my voice. I need you to just realign yourself with me and listen to what I have to the next instructions of your life. So for me, I'm thinking, but I'm living my life, I like what I'm doing. But he had other plans. Because a lot of things we do, and this is something that I'd like to share. We do a lot of things in life that seemingly succeed, and they might not be from God, although they're seemingly succeeding. And I'll give you an example. There was a project at the point at which God told me to slow down and stop everything. There was a project that came to me. It was an international project. There were some people who approached me from out of the country that have held big workshops around the world. They approached me and said, we'd like you to be the person who organized, they wanted to bring the conference into Zambia, the Victoria Falls. So I come from a country which has the Victoria Falls. The Victoria Falls is one of the 7 or 10th natural wonders of the world. So, and Zambia, and that natural wonder is in Zambia. And they really wanted the, the global conference to be held in Zambia. So because they had heard of me, remember God had given me a platform because I followed my passion in fashion, which again was a seemingly silly thing because I don't even have the qualification, but I was obedient to follow that passion. And I'm not trying to take you back, but I need you to understand that my obedience was called stupid by a lot of people because I am a chartered accountant by profession. I have the whole qualification. And then you're told, okay, stop, do fashion. I don't even know how to sew a straight line, but I did follow that passion. Now that passion that I followed is what put me on a global standing, and people were able to recognize me. I'm just trying to make you understand how important it is to follow the direction of God. What seemed seemingly stupid is what put me on that platform. What I was qualified for never put me on that platform. What I was qualified for only gave me a big desk and a big title. Okay. So anyway, so I was trying to say that I was approached by these people to host this very big event. There was a lot of money involved. And then I thought, okay, God, there's this thing coming up. This is really big for me. There are presidents, former presidents coming from all over the world. There were a few former presidents that were going to come, a few like big celebrities, global celebrities that were coming. And I'm hosting, And then God said, no, you're not going to do it. So just shut that down. Just because it is big, just because there are all these people coming, doesn't mean I have endorsed it. Okay. So there are a lot of people, a lot of you who think you're successful, and yet God has not endorsed your success. Okay. So he told me, as you enter the new year, which was 2024, as you enter 2024, I need you to shut everything down. So I had to just back out from that invitation. I just said, I can't do it. And then another instruction gave me is that I need you to remove yourself from all your relations, my friendships, all my relations. I need you to come out of your business. I need you to come out of all these events. I need you to come out of your friendships, not to break friendships, but I just need you alone. In other words, I just need you to be separated. He wanted me to separate it from everything and everyone. So I was here separated, and I'm, praying and waiting. What do you have for me? Patiently waiting. I mean, he spoke clearly. I mean, what do I do? So one day in June, I'm sitting, and all this time I've been reflecting, and God has been speaking. I think this was a moment God spoke the most in my life. It's a moment where God actually spoke, and he did. He actually spoke, and whatever he spoke, he did it. I think he was trying to demonstrate to me that I'm with you. Because in the past, it's like you pray, and then one day God answers, But this time there was a specific instruction, and I'd like to be honest in how he spoke to me. He raised someone, because remember, he removed me from the people that I interacted with, people I prayed with, people I did business with. He removed me from these physical people, and then he raised a social media, a YouTuber, a woman of God. And I think I will talk about this a little later, because it is very important for me to mention it, because even as he told me to start this YouTube channel, he told me that someone spoke to you. I spoke to you through someone, and I need you to speak, even if you're just called to one person. Okay. So this YouTuber was prophetic. And when I tell you that every day she would give a word, it was an instruction to me. And every instruction, I received every instruction. And, it was so specific to the T. Every instruction this woman that I've never met spoke about would give me instructions to the T, and would even talk about things that were happening in my life. Like it was that specific. Like there was nothing like, oh, this part is not for me. This part is for me. No, everything. It was as if God is just speaking directly to me, and He would give me instructions. And He made sure that every instruction He gave me, He would respond. Every instruction He gave me. And it was such a beautiful moment for me. So through this same platform, He told me in June now. So I've gone through 6 months of just being and enjoying the Lord, because I'm like, oh God, you mean you're real? You know, I knew God was real, but I didn't know He was that real. I didn't know that God could raise someone I don't even know and they would speak directly to me. Then one day I wake up and He tells me, and that was in June, and I was in my garden. I have a beautiful garden, and He tells me, I need you to write a book. So I said, Lord, you need me to write a book about what? And then He tells me, I need you to write a book about all the failed relationship upon failed relationship that you've had. And He reminded me that I always spoke to you in those relationships. Because every time I went through all those relationships, I was stronger with God, because He was the only one I would go to. Okay. And though they failed, though He ended them, there were lessons in every relationship. Now you can imagine how intense God can be, that I didn't even know. All I know is that, okay, fine, you've allowed me to be here. Now you're breaking my heart, and then He would bring someone else, and it would be over and over. To be a cycle over and over again. And this is one other thing I am going to share 5 major relationships with you, because God spoke to me in those. And the reason I'm going to share them is because they're all totally different. For some reason, they're all totally different. God spoke differently. And these are examples of relationships that that different people that will listen to this platform have gone through. And I went through them for a reason, so that I'm able to share the different aspects of a relationship that you may be able to understand. Okay. So He tells me, I need you to write a book about that. So I said, you mean that was important? You mean that's important to you? I thought you'd tell me to write a book about my success, about the journey of moving from my passion in fashion, from being a fashion designer, and from being a director of finance to being a fashion designer, and how people have been calling me on big platforms. I've dined with queens, the queen of and king of Malaysia. I've dressed, I thought that's what he'd want me to talk about. He said, I want you to talk about the relationships. And I was like, really? So then I started writing the book. Immediately He actually spoke, I got my laptop and started writing. And you will be so shocked. And I'm shocked myself, because as I wrote, as the Spirit spoke, I wrote. Because I didn't even know how I was going to start. But every day He would give me something to write, every day. And it became like a full-time job. Remember, He had separated me from everyone and everything. So I would wake up and start writing, and I would and end my day writing before I go to bed, every single day. And at this point, it's very important for me to mention this. At this point, I had already met somebody that God brought in my life. So that's God brought in my life at the moment where I was like, I'm done with relationships. I was like, I was good, So at this point, God had brought me that someone. And I will talk about that later, because it is a totally different topic in itself. It is a totally different ball game, because it has its own dynamics. So stay with me. So anyway, so then He told me to write this book. I started writing it, and he would give me what to write. Okay. So I haven't yet published this book. The book is called My Broken Road to Love. And it is my broken road to love, because I've highlighted a lot of things. I've highlighted what it means to wait, what it means to what delay means, delay. I've highlighted, even I've even talked about the, I've actually revealed the 5 major relationships that God has told me to reveal. One of them with a married man, while I was in the church, while I was speaking in tongues. Okay. So a lot of things that I've written about myself are an exposure of my life, an exposure of my call. It was very hard for me to accept this call because a lot of people have secrets. We all have secrets and would rather die with our secrets. Okay. None of us are perfect. We've done things. Okay. And would rather not talk about them. We'd rather learn the lesson and move on. Okay. But then I was asked, you need to talk about this, because for me, it's a scandal. It's a scandal for me. I'm a woman of God. I've spoken in churches, I've spoken on platforms. But even while I was doing that, I had a relationship with a married man. And there was so much misconception. When you have a relationship with a married man and you're thinking this is okay, because I don't know, I'll talk about it, and it's a very, very interesting topic because a lot of people in the church are doing it. Married pastors are doing it. So I would like to keep it as a separate topic because we need to be open about some of these things, some of these mistakes, where in the moment you think it is so perfect, like this is the most perfect relationship I've ever been in. This must be God. You tell yourself, because everyone who's going on with a married man has a lying spirit telling them how it's the one, how they're hearing voices telling them he's the one, or whatever it is that they convince themselves in. There's no sane person in this world who would say that it is okay to go out with a married man. There is no sane person in this world who would say that. But when you find yourself in that situation, there's a conviction that comes upon you. Okay, I am going to talk about that. So I just wanted to give a background of who I am and why I'm talking about what I'm talking. So my book is not published yet. And that's because it's alive. As far as I'm concerned, I'm ready. As far as I'm concerned, I was ready to publish it even a few months ago. But it is so alive that God will wake me up and say, remember what I said in that part? Okay, add this part. So it's alive like that. Although I started preparing myself and actually communicated with a few publishing houses in the US. I'm in the US currently. And I've been having conversations because I'm waiting for God to tell me, okay, it's now time for you to publish it. He hasn't told me that. He's told me to start this YouTube channel, talk about it, So I don't know. I might not publish it. I might, if God tells me to go ahead and publish it. It's a great book. And when I read it, every time I read it, I'm like, I wrote this? How? There's nowhere in my head or my mind that I would have this kind of wisdom. So it's inspired by the Holy Spirit. And if I do publish it, I hope you get a copy for yourself and for your children. It is very important because life is tough. There's a lot of warfare, especially in relationships, especially God-ordained relationships. There has to be warfare. You have to be prepared for warfare. And hopefully I can hold your hand. We can hold each other's hands and move through this journey together. So I'll come back later and speak more as we go into the details of the memoir. It's my memoir. So I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.